You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's your day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.
Welcome to Above the Garage, a Nick and June, the Handmaid's Tale podcast. Hi, friends. Welcome to our deep dive into season 2, episode 9 of The Handmaid's Tale, which is entitled Smart Power. This episode is intended for longtime watchers. So if you are a new watcher, you probably don't want to hear us discuss the spoilers from all the future episodes. Let's do our round of introductions and dive in.
Hi, I'm Marigold.
Hi, I'm Scarlett.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
Hi, I'm Ginger.
Hi, I'm Yulia.
And I'm Kate.
I had a parallel that I noticed when June is summoned to the sitting room or whatever room that is, and Nick is standing there in the living room holding papers, looking helpless. It just takes me right to episode 3 of season 3, where he's standing there as a commander for the first time, looking nervous and helpless, holding his papers without, feeling powerless to help her.
Oh, yeah. I also love how quickly Lawrence clocks their relationship in that scene in like 1 second, and how like Fred has had an eternity to clock their relationship. All Nick does, they just stare at each other across the room. I was impressed with Lawrence's quick pickup.
Since we're on season 3, I have one with season 3 too, which is when Nick goes up to talk to June after getting back from Canada, and he tells her about the letters. And she hugs him and she goes to kiss him in the cheek, and he kind of walks away. And that's when she says, "What?" Made me think of the season 3 snow kiss, when they're kissing, and she senses that, he senses that she has something to say and says the same "what." I remembered because I think I was talking to Kate about that "what" once. And when I saw it, I kind of picked up on it, just because they both have something to say that's obviously very, very heavy. So I thought it was a cool parallel.
And they can read each other so well. Like, they know the second they feel they're not into it.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. Like a half a second into just, I don't know, this physical thing, they can tell.
I mean, she can read his face a little in that ending scene of 2-9. But I think in the snow scene, when he's kissing her neck or her cheek, like he's on the other side of where we can see him, but I don't know if she flinches, but she pulls back just the tiniest bit. And that's what makes him stop, because he's just reading her, like every single little thing. And I think he knows too, if she was more engaged, she would be responding in a very different way. So he's just very good. And he doesn't push it. He's like, "What? I want to know."
How in tune they are with each other is crazy. You don't see that on TV very often.
So I had a note when Rita brings June hot milk. So on like the very first watch, I remember it was bugging me, and I think somebody said something about Nick, like why, like Nick would still be there if June left. Nick is the father, and Nick would still be there. And I remember it bothered me so much that she kept looking for other people to take care of the baby. And I kept thinking to myself, well, wouldn't Nick take care of the baby? Or wouldn't Nick be there to look after the baby or make sure that the baby is safe? But as we see later on, after the baby is born, Nick can't even go near the baby. Like, he can't even, like, he's not really, like, his purpose there has nothing to do with the baby. So it's like, it has to be this sort of secret forced thing that happens, this special moment where he's actually able to be close enough to his baby to hold her. So I don't know if June would have known all that though at that point in time, but it always just struck me as odd that she was looking for anybody else when she knew Nick would still be there to maybe look after their baby. I don't know. Did you guys ever have thoughts about that?
I just think she's gathering as many people as she can, knowing how Gilead is, and somebody could be killed on a moment's notice, Like she fully knows that Nick will do anything he can, but like you said, like we see afterwards, that turns out to be
it's
nothing.
also just
just the timing, I think, because well, they prepare to leave for Canada, and then Serena drops that bomb on her, and it's just a spur of a moment for her. Okay, I need to find people now.
The people she sees. Well.
Yeah, and Nick is still in Canada at that point when she's talking to Rita and Lydia. So,
like in Gilead, men don't take care of the babies. I mean, like it's usually, you know, the Martha. It's definitely not the wife. So maybe, I don't know, maybe she thought she'd go to women that would be close to the baby, I guess, maybe.
I think that's true. And also her options are limited. She has Rita. I think Rita's probably the best of the options available. But when I had notes in there too about Lydia, that she's really scraping the bottom of the barrel when she's, you know, asking Lydia for help with her baby. I mean, she's seen this woman torture women too. And so she makes the comment about Fred, any man who would hurt a woman would also hurt a child. Is it also true for Lydia? Any woman who hurt a woman would also hurt a child. So she really doesn't have any options.
Yes.
And Lydia doesn't even live in the house. So it's not like she can be there for this child on a daily basis. You know, I don't even know, does she have a lot of access to the babies afterwards once the handmaid is gone?
She seems involved, right? Because like the breastfeeding thing.
But she's connected with
but I mean, once the handmaid leaves.
Oh, sorry. Gotcha.
I feel like that's probably it, right? I don't think that the aunts go back and check in on the kids if they do, it's not that often.
I think in Gilead, I think her strategy here is quantity over quality, which is a good strategy in Gilead because there aren't quality. You're not going to find someone that you're really going to trust, you know? That's just going to be awesome and take care of your baby. So she's just trying to get everybody, as many people as she can, to feel some sense of guilt and personal responsibility, I guess. I do think, though, that she knows that Nick is going to do, you know, he's made it pretty clear from his daydreams and just he's going to do everything he can to take care of.
Yeah.
To keep the baby safe.
To protect it, at least.
Limited. Yeah.
I have a parallel from the Luke and Nick scene in the bar. When like I kind of, I mean, it's maybe a little from both ways, because Nick uses this as a chance to get some messages across to June, but I also thought, like, on the other hand, like, Luke stops him to use Nick to get messages out. I mean, Nick would have left if Luke hadn't stopped him and asked him to bring June some messages and to ask about Hannah, which is basically the same thing he does in episode 409 when he going to use Nick to get information on Hannah again, kind of. So I thought, like, that was interesting that even though he's not really trusting Nick, and also despises that he's part of Gilead, that he's just still using him to get his agenda.
I noticed that too. I had that same parallel written down. It's like he's seeking Nick out both times, because I think he would have let Nick leave the bar, and then it dawned on him, like, oh, wait a minute, he might know something about Hannah, so let me see what I can get out of this guy.
I also, like, since we're talking about the conversation, I had obviously when Nick is telling June, he's being totally honest and transparent and telling her absolutely everything that Luke said. But then when Luke is talking to June in season 4, he's having like 3 different conversations, trying to have the actual conversation that he wants to have. So it's like a contradiction parallel there too.
I just, Nick is, he's just like, he's such a strong, like, moral compass despite living in Gilead. I find it fascinating that he's made it this far, still maintains that. But I mean, even, yes, he did lie to Luke, but you could tell that was hard for him, right? And he then told every single thing Luke said to June, even though there's huge downside to him, basically no upside. He's just always so honest with her, you know? And I'm sure that somebody that didn't like Nick would say, oh, well, he didn't tell her about a wedding ring in 409. And that's okay with me. I understand that, because
I did too. Telling her all of those things from Canada, like, he could have told her nothing and she never would have known. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying about what I'm used to seeing on other TV shows is men taking advantage of that, taking advantage of the situation, or like withholding information or withholding the truth, even if they don't necessarily aren't, if they're not dishonest, they're withholding the truth. And usually TV shows do this to create drama. And I remember back at the time I saw this, I was like, this show's got enough drama. They don't need to create these contrived situations where he has all this information that he could tell her, but he doesn't because he's afraid. And it's just, he's just like, this is an example of an actual honest man, and it's just so rare to actually see that on TV, and I think that's really kind of sad.
Yeah, when you say it like that, it is, because I reacted the same way. I was like, whoa, what? He's gonna tell her everything word for word? Like, he doesn't round it into, he loves you, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he tells her everything that Luke asked him to tell him.
Because he does it for her. So also, like, circling back to the wedding ring reveal in episode 9, I mean, that is nothing that would benefit June. Why would he tell her? Like, it would upset her. Yeah, it would upset her, maybe re-evoke her trauma as well, because
Eden, right?
Yeah, because she knows what he needs to do if he has a wife, and maybe also a handmaid at one point. We don't know. Yeah,
we hope not.
I'm sure Nick realizes that June being in Canada is traumatizing because he knows how desperately she wants Hannah. Yeah. So why would he give her trauma in a moment that's supposed to be?
Yeah, exactly. Why make it about him and his problems?
Yes, exactly. Like, he is in a ton of pain because of that marriage, but that's not him. He's too selfless to focus on that. He just wants June to be happy.
Yeah,
because it's really more, that would be more about his trauma in the moment. If he's like, oh, guess what they made me do? I had to get married again. And, I don't think she would be upset about that because she understands what Gilead's like. She understands the situation. It would be more comforting him. And that's not, it's like, let's not waste time focusing on me and my pain right now. Let's focus on our family and us, and this is the information I got you for your daughter, and that makes her happy. And then the joy they have with the three of them sitting there in that window, it was perfect. And it would have been completely ruined if he had been honest about the wedding or the marriage.
Yeah, but I think he's portrayed like that for a reason. Like Rachel said, I think we're conditioned into expecting certain things or certain actions from men, that when we see, quote unquote, the right actions, we're completely shocked. We're conditioned to accept certain things. And then we have this character. I think this is one of the reasons why I like his character so much, is because he's portrayed completely different in this TV show as other men in TV shows. And it's like constantly mind-blowing, especially this scene. People take it for granted because it's like, okay, so he just took some letters. They don't understand the risks he's taken, not only for the letters, but for everything else he's done. Like, it equals death. Like, he's gonna die if he gets caught, and he doesn't have to do this. He can at any point be like, I don't have to do this shit, but he decides to do it because he's in love with this woman. People forget that the letters also changed the political course of what was going on between Canada and Gilead, and it also made Fred look really bad. So it's not just about, oh, he did this for June because of the letters and the scene and the love. There's a lot more behind what he did for those letters, and what he did to get the letters out. There was a purpose for that,
and it worked, and it stopped whatever diplomacy was about to happen between Gilead and Canada, because they said they believed the women. So from that point forward, like before that trip and before the letters, Canada had just all these rumors and all this kind of cloudy, we don't really understand what Gilead is. We kind of hear all these bad things, but then Gilead says all the other that it's good. We don't know what to believe. Now they know what to believe. Because of the letters, they believe the women. And from that point forward, there's no diplomacy between Gilead and Canada. There's no trade. There's no, whatever the purpose was of that trip completely failed.
After this episode, I did a name meaning kind of research, just because I was kind of intrigued about Isaac and Eden just because they're very like biblical Christian focused names. And I was just curious what other people, other characters' names meanings were. And it's funny because Nick's name meaning is victory of the people. So, him bringing these letters and really, exposing Gilead like fits his name. And then June also means young. But then I think it was Violet in our group chat also saw that it meant protector of pregnant women, which is awesome. Fred's name meaning is peaceful ruler, which is ironic. And Serena's name meaning is serene, peaceful, also ironic. But I just had to interject because I was like, oh, this is a good segue into,
That's
Nick
awesome.
is victory of the people.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
funny that Serena's name in the book is totally different, right?
Oh, it's different?
Yeah, it's not her real name. Serena Joy is not her real name. I think her name is Pamela or something.
It's Pam, yeah.
Ah, that's
so
right.
it's actually a name she gave herself, which is more fitting
that
than
makes more sense.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
So I had another parallel going back to talking about how Nick is selfless. What really was significant to me about the way that he delivered the news to June about, Luke's message, I really love how he does it in a way where he doesn't want her to feel guilty. He doesn't want her to feel like worried about Nick and how he's handling this. Like I said earlier, he turns away when he starts to get emotional, like when she's really happy about, hearing about Moira and Luke living together and they're going to kill each other. And he doesn't want her to feel this guilt because he wants her to have this happy moment, because this is what he does. Like, he will sacrifice his own happiness for hers. And it's such a contrast, after he delivers all of the news to her and tells her, he says, like, I should go, like, Eden's waiting for me. I think he realizes that she needs space to process all this news, because here they are, like, they never get these chances to be together. So, he could have hung around for a while, but he knows that he just dumped a lot of information on her and she needs to process this. So he gives her that space and that agency to, like, let this sit. I think of episode 408 after June's testimony, where Luke just doesn't seem to understand. He hears 10 minutes of her testimony and is like, okay, we can move on now. He's emotional, and I understand that he's emotional. He's going to be, like, it was a lot, right, to hear all this, but he can't hold in his emotions, and he inherently makes her feel like she needs to comfort him. We see, like, her different reactions to these two situations with these two men. Like, with Nick, I think she knows how he is, right? And she knows that he's, like, doesn't want her feeling bad for him. And you can see, like, the empathy on her face, and you can see that she feels bad because she knows it's breaking his heart. But in the scene with Luke, you can see the resentment on her face. Like, ugh, like, I just had this awful testimony and now I have to comfort you instead of you comforting me. Oh, and I also thought it was interesting going back to the bar scene where Nick and Luke are meeting, and Luke, well, first of all, Nick goes, when Luke asks him for his name, he says, oh, Nick, I'm just a driver. And I love the parallel to episode 305, where June sends the tape to Luke and says her father is a driver named Nick. You met him. I love that parallel. So I think it's significant that they, Nick says, oh, I'm just a driver. And then we later find out her father is a driver named Nick. You met him. He helped me to survive. So he's not just a driver.
And also not just a friend. Helping someone to survive is like, it's more than just,
Yes.
Right.
I think it's really sweet he chose she's my friend. And true. Like,
He could have said anything. He could have said, I live in the house with her.
Yeah.
I know her. He didn't even have to make it a personal connection.
But a friend is more like, if I hear the word friend, I have a total different opinion about the person, I think, because the word friend means, okay, this person knows the other person well. There's some connection, there's sympathy there.
Yeah, and I think he's trying to let him know, like, I'm a friend, I'm looking out for her. Which, it's kind of ironic, I guess, that Luke, when he stops Nick and asks him to look out for June, he basically got his wish. Like, Nick does look out for June, but he has no idea that Nick looking out for June was the catalyst to them falling in love, right? That's why, from the very beginning when she moved into that house, like, because of what happened to the first offer, he wants to look out for her. Then they fell in love, and it kind of reminds me too of episode 409 where Luke and June are having their uncomfortable conversation, and she tells him Nick would do anything for her, and she knows that, and she knows here, like, Nick bringing these letters to him is a huge risk. Again, she realizes that he's being Nick and sacrificing himself and doing anything for her. So she says that to Luke, now that even once she makes it to Canada and there's, they think there's no hope of her and Nick ever being together again, or even June thinking she's not going to see him again. Luke is the one that, again, pushes her to Nick. Like, you should go meet him and get info on Hannah, which again brings June to Nick, who loves her through her trauma, whereas nobody's giving her like that. Nobody understands her in Canada. So now she gets to Nick and he understands her. And again, like, that love is reinforced. And honestly, I just feel like their bond gets stronger. So again, like, both times he's pushing her towards Nick and doesn't realize what he's doing,
So Luke, do you think he just totally discounts Nick as
Yes, I do.
That's been my impression too.
He looked so anxious before she left. Like, the way he was being so needy and, like, following her to the car and like, literally on top of her. And so one of the other osblaine fans, I can't remember who it was, made the point when they're standing outside the house, and this is in 4-9, Twello makes a comment about the Secret Service will give you privacy, you'll have so much time or whatever, and Luke gets a look on his face like, privacy? Like, that wasn't, I didn't think that was part of the deal.
I didn't notice that.
And that's when he's, like, on top of her. She's walking back to the car and he's like he has to claim his territory, and then he gives her that kiss before she gets in the car. And
I think he took a gamble, having that conversation with June, and he knows Nick is good. He met him. Obviously he can't see that. And then there's the tape. But then when he's talking to her, he says it, like, oh, he's a commander now. And he does that in a negative way, kind of like trying to remind June, like he's Gilead. Remember, like, he realized when she tells him, I think he would do anything for me and for Nicole. That's when he had the idea, but shut that down right there.
And the way she looked at him too, like, she made eye contact and didn't drop it. Like,
right.
She was firm with him.
She didn't like what he said. Like, she understood what he was trying to do. And I think, obviously that June didn't like what he said, because she knows that Nick is good. And I think maybe that's why she just, closed that door. But I don't think that the door closed meant that she didn't feel anything for him anymore, because it was pretty obvious.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
I think as the door closed, as
just
in
practicality.
They're in different, they're in different countries where you can't just freely go visit, But I do think it's really frustrating, though, that Luke is like dismissive of Nick, because it's frustrating that he doesn't see the significance of what Nick did by going to seeking him out in that bar, or else he forgot, No,
he doesn't. I don't think he sees it.
And do you think he sees it now? Like, after he got the folder with all the information from Hannah, do you think he sees it now?
No.
Because even Moira saw it. Even Moira had the comment, a good man in Gilead. Do you think Luke?
Maybe he sees it, but his pride is hurt. I think that's how I see it.
I think he just thinks it's easy for Nick to get all those information on Hannah. That there's no risk for him to do that.
That he's not doing enough because he can just get Hannah out.
I think it's something, though, that we'll probably see more of in season 5, though, because we really didn't have time to see his reaction, because, Moira says, like, Nick is a good man, and then immediately Twello is like, oh, by the way, Fred's released, and then June goes apeshit, and then we go into the finale. So I think that's probably something they'll explore in season 5, because really the only thing we see of Luke next is him just being like, all right, well, it's a miracle, we're here, and let's just go.
Don't be mad at Fred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No big deal.
And but he was mad at Fred in this episode, and that was
Yes, I have a
interesting because
note.
he was like
What
slashing
happened
out
to
at
that?
him. Yeah, what happened?
This is the Luke we've been wanting to see. Like, this is the Luke that I wanted, the one that's raging and wants to beat the crap out of Fred. Like, where did he go?
Not the one that says just let it go. You got to let it go and move on. I haven't actually asked this question because I know everybody always says, you can't, everybody responds differently to trauma, and everybody grieves differently, and everybody has different reactions. But when Luke was at the testimony, is that the right word?
Yeah.
And he's listening to everything that June is saying, and especially the rape from when she's pregnant. And I felt like he had not a neutral reaction. I just felt like he should have been more like I didn't see him cry. I didn't see him. I think he showed like some irritation when Fred or Serena said something, but I don't know. It's like he really just doesn't get it. And I don't know. I guess I would expect, hearing all those things, that his rage, like you guys were saying, would be again at the level it was in this episode in Smart Power, but it seems to decline. Like, it just doesn't really seem to be ramped up. Like, he's heard all this stuff and like, oh, now I really want to get this guy, or now, like, I don't know. It just, I guess his reaction from the testimony seemed odd to me.
Oh man. Yeah, is he angry at all in season 4?
Season 3, I thought like there was this one scene when he got into Fred's face, but it was
and punches him.
Season 3,
and he punches him.
That was in 3.
Yeah,
but the anger's gone.
I think that he feels, I don't know if better is a word, but since June's already there, I think he just wants to move on. I know it sounds horrible, but it's just like, that's usually what people tell victims, like, oh, you need to move on. You can't stay here because then they're going to win. You got to be the bigger person.
Doesn't he basically say that to her in the finale, though, about moving on?
Yeah, moving on. Like, it's the whole thing with the anger that they did. Like, so be lucky, see the positive.
I also kind of have a parallel with Moira too. Just thinking about trauma. So we see, Moira confronting Fred in the limo with her sign. But then in season 4 with Fred possibly being, was it extradited, released? I can't remember. You can see that she's kind of processing through that trauma again. So I thought that was really interesting that, like, Moira has probably likely been raped by so many men, but her trauma with Fred is more like visceral, more, like she has a lot more to it. So I think that Fred was maybe particularly cruel or violent when he raped Moira. I know that's
maybe it's more personal too, because June is also involved.
Yeah. She knows he's abusing her as well as whatever abuse she already, and since she has experienced it firsthand, she knows what he's capable of. I think I can shift things back. I had another parallel going back to our favorite topic of Nick's selflessness. So I drew a parallel between the ending scene in this episode and the way his motivations of being honest and how selfless it was because he knew telling her all this could mean costing him the woman he loves, because he knew that if he tells her everything about her husband, reminding her of her husband, reminding her that her husband loves her, reaffirming the love from her husband that he said will never stop, that all of that could cost him June. But he was willing to do that because it's what you do when you're willing to say something that will make someone you love happy, even if it makes you miserable and you lose something that's so precious to you. And I saw a similar selflessness in 4-3 when, so Nick's goal in 4-3, even though he has nothing but bad options in front of him when he has to arrest June, which I believe he probably volunteered to do, even though we didn't see him do that, but he knew that if he was in control, he could maybe help her survive it. Yeah,
and
like I believe that Gilead had located her, and he was informed of that, and that's why he volunteered to capture her so that she would
So
survive.
I believe that too. And so his primary goal is to keep her alive, and he's navigating all of the worst options that are in front of him, and he's like choosing the best of the worst options because his primary goal is, how do I keep her alive? So as long as he can get her through all, he can't stop it from happening. He, like, despite what anybody says, he can't, you know, load her up in the car and just head for the border. I mean, he can't do that. It's not practical. And he has to arrest her. He has to take her where she's going to be tortured. And doing though is, in a sense, possibly pushing her away from him. And on the bridge, it's like he's doing all of these things, and including what happened with Hannah. It's like, so ultimately he's willing to do a thing that could possibly make her hate him in order to save her life. You know, she might have never spoken to him again after the Hannah thing. I mean, you know, it's really possible. But what I love too about what they did there is she just told him to stop, because she gets it. I know we're in Gilead. I know what your job is. I know that I'm alive because you did what you did. So she gets all of that. But anyway, it's just another example of his selflessness.
Like you said earlier, Kate, it's biblical love. It's literally the love is patient Bible verse. That is the way Nick loves. That is
no
why.
Wrongs.
Exactly. Yeah, that whole thing. Like, that's the way he loves, and it's biblical, which basically nothing about Gilead really is, you know.
Right.
I saw another parallel too, because, you know, of course, I feel like every episode we have to tie everything back to the season 4 finale.
I think we didn't last episode. I was wondering, did you guys?
Oh,
did we this week?
So when Nick, you know, comes to June's room and tells her about the letters, and I love the look on her face, like she's so happy and proud of him.
I love it.
And as soon as I was rewatching the episode and I saw it, she had like the heart emoji eyes, or like the star emoji eyes, which reminded me of when Nick delivered Fred to her in the woods. And she kissed him, because she says thank you to him in this episode, but in the woods she had that same exact look where she kisses him, you know, they make out and she's like thank you, and then she's got like those heart emoji eyes. And I just love that, because here it is, like, it's the same thing where he's doing selfless things that are going to put his life in danger. He's bringing these letters over the border, putting his name out there. He's delivering Fred to her in the woods to murder. And I just love that reaction.
That ties in one of my notes is that he always brings her the best gifts. They're not material, but he brings her the best gifts. He brings her messages from people she loves in Canada, her husband even. He brings her Hannah intel. He brings her Fred. Like, he brings her everything that he can, that he knows will, you know, make her happy. And it's just really sweet.
I also thought there was another, I don't know if it's a parallel. I guess it is a parallel. It's not one that I love, but I'm going to say it just because it's there. Yeah. But so the protesters outside, you know, it was pretty incredible with all those signs saying my name is, and it did make me think of season 4. I don't remember which episode it was, where suddenly Fred and Serena had all these fans and they walked outside, and there's just these horde of people who were supporting them. Yeah. Like I said, not my favorite thing, but I saw the two things, and that's what it reminded me of. They were kicked out of Canada before, and later on they're embraced, and they even have this whole disgusting following.
Yeah. And there's nobody out there like on the opposite side. I also had the way that Luke reacts to Nick saying June's okay, June's fine or whatever, and he's like, she's not fine, right? In season 4, when June finally comes clean about Hannah, like apparently in a whole overnight session, and I don't know which episode it is.
It's 409.
Okay, I thought it was 9. Okay, it opens at 409 at the breakfast table, and they're still talking about Hannah, and she says, I know that she's back with the Mackenzies, she's home because Nick told me. And he reacts in like the exact same kind of way, and he's like, she's not home, like home would be here with us. But it just struck me when he said it that it was the exact same way that he reacted to the last thing that Nick told him, which was
That's right.
she's okay, and like the exact same like tone of voice sort of. And I have no idea if that was intentional or not, but I happened to notice it when I watched it.
No, that's a good one.
Which is that, but then when he says she's not home, then that reminds me of June saying to Nick, "Welcome home."
Mhm.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
back to Gilead. Like
Yeah.
that was their home.
You make
even
a
though-
home there, and she's been there.
And
Like, to be fair.
unfortunately, I know Luke doesn't want to hear this, but unfortunately to Hannah, it is her home.
Like, you can also see that with the kids. June got out, and who has like a big problem adapting to Canada because they were kind of ripped from their homes.
To them, they were kidnapped. So a lot of them, maybe not all of them, but the youngest ones, Gilead was their life. It's their, and especially, I mean, the children. I'm not sure the children are having. I don't think they realize how bad Gilead is. It's not until, especially the girls are older and they're Eden's age, when it starts to become that type of reality. And the boys, I mean, I just don't necessarily think that they perceive it as being this torturous place, and especially as children. So yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about all that.
But you even see it with Hannah though, even in the next episode, 210, where she's been apart from June, what, I don't know, whatever the timeline, 3 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Like she's already at that point, like she doesn't see June as her mother, I guess, you know, like that's kind of almost wiped away.
Yeah.
So already like she sees that as her home. And so, you know, by the time you get to season 4, a few more years have passed.
I had a comment about after the letters get out, after the Waterfords come home, and even going forward, at no point does Fred ever seem to question where the letters came from. I mean, he talked about that was a disaster, you know, I'm gonna pay for this or whatever, but he doesn't seem at all concerned about connecting those dots and figuring out how did those letters get out. And I would think that would be a huge question for him. And I would think one of the most obvious people would be Nick. So it's just always been strange to me that never came back around to bite Nick in the butt.
Yeah, but it fits because Fred is clueless and he just,
I guess so.
He never gets it.
I guess it all comes back to his. Plus, he so blindly trusts Nick that it's like he just never suspects him of anything up till the very end.
He's got like no critical thinking skills.
But even if he doesn't suspect Nick, he doesn't even think about how it happened. I mean, it was a huge blow to his. You know, he's going to look bad because of the failure of the trip to Canada. And he doesn't even seem to be like, we got to find out where those letters came from. How did those letters get out? How did they get those letters? I never ever hear him question that.
I think also, I mean, there's people that have been coming in and out. We see it in Moira's episodes. So, I mean, it's obvious that if he ties the dots, it's going to be Nick. But, you know, with people coming in and out of Gilead, I think there's an episode where they talk about a Martha that had done an article about Gilead and stuff. So, it could have been somebody else. And I think he dismisses it too because it's women talking. So
could have been a coincidence that it's happened.
He just never brings it up again.
A lot of coincidences around Nick. It's weird.
And
again it's ironic considering pre-Gilead, like Serena was in charge and Fred listened to her.
Mm-hmm. Also, like Tuello mentioned that when he talked to Serena that she could write a book and like anti-Gilead propaganda book and something like this. And I was wondering, going into season 5, I mean, we know where season 4 left off, that she was about to write a book. And is this going to be this book? Like, do you think she will write it like anti-Gilead, or is she just writing like just her story and not really making any comments on how bad it was? Or what do you think?
It would probably be Gilead propaganda. So opposite of, but again, Serena does what Serena does. She shoots herself in the foot every time. Like she could help herself and save herself and get what she wants, you know, but she doesn't. She throws the matches in the fire. And
maybe she likes being miserable.
I think she does.
Is happy.
But I thought it was kind of funny that, you know, Tuello is like, using his like flirty charm with Serena to try to like get through to her, but I feel like that backfires on him, like as in season 3 and definitely in season 4, because I mean, it seems like he has a thing for her, you know?
I think he does at this point. I was trying to not believe it, but it seems pretty evident.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he has a hard time separating any like feelings he may have from what he's supposed, his actual job.
Right.
And, in this episode, like he's trying to get on her good side and trying to win her over, which ends up to basically her knowing she can manipulate him later on and pretty much like even in what is it, in the finale, I think she's trying to tell him what to do. Like when Fred is in that room meeting with the people, like he's supposed to be giving whatever information, and she's just like trying to boss him around. So it just backfires on him.
And it's crazy in that scene that he's like, Serena, are you really doing this? Are you really going back with him? Are you? And you're just like, whoa, where did that come from? That was a whole extra like assumption of something I did not understand. But I guess we'll find out.
Okay, so one thing that struck me in this episode was the use of birds noise. I don't know if you guys recognize that.
I didn't notice it.
Where did you know?
No, but I've noticed how they've used dogs barking, so it would make sense if they used birds.
They use bird song. I have.
They use birds in several episodes, but like usually just birds chirping. But there in this episode specifically, there were like different kinds of birds. So
oh my god, do you speak bird languages too?
No. But I can look up birds' meanings and their symbolism. So
do tell us.
So in the very first scene when June is having this voiceover talk, there's just this standard birds chirping, hopeful. I don't know what kind of mood it's always bringing. And I was like, okay, she's still in a good mood. She's still hopeful that she can help her baby some way, because it was still before Serena got the news to her. Then a little later in the scene with Eden and Nick talking at the car, there's been crows in the background. So, and crows are usually for, danger and death situations. So this is why I bring that up in the deep dive, because we know that Eden will, have a not so good...
She might have a death situation.
So I thought that was quite interesting.
That is.
And a little later in the scene with Serena, when she comes to June and tells her that she will leave the house as soon as the baby is born, there has been pigeons cooing before. And like the cooing is usually something that babies do, I think. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting too. And also pigeons can represent fertility.
Wow, interesting. Wait, I'm sorry. You can identify these birds by their sound?
No, that would be nice. Yeah, I mean, pigeons, maybe crows also.
Them? What's that? Oh, the captions.
Yeah, the captions. I was like, okay, why?
Wait, no, I still don't understand. Okay, sorry, as you are.
It's the captions, yeah. And in the end, last scene, when Nick comes up to June, there's an owl in the background. I mean, it's just deep in the night, so...
love owls.
Yeah, owls are nice. I love them too. But also owls represent not just the middle of the night, but also knowledge and change, especially spiritual death, which brings new beginnings. This is also something that we said in the episode before, because when June accepted that she cannot help her child, but in the end, after she got the good news about Moira and Luke and everything changes for her again, and she's hopeful again, and she wants to fight again. And I thought like this.
God, the details they put in this show. Thank God you noticed that. That's incredible. Really? I like that a lot. And also the knowledge. Like he gave her all this knowledge about her loved ones. I think that is a wrap on our deep dive into season 2, episode 9 of The Handmaid's Tale. We hope to see you guys next week for season 2, episode 10. And also hope you're watching The Shining Girls with us on Tuesdays. Well, you can watch before Tuesday, but our recording comes out on Tuesday. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
You know, I think about us, the three of us, what we could be. I think about it all the time.
Please. It's terrible.
No, it's not. know June. She's my friend. I care about her. How's her day going? You look pretty.
Thanks. I wore it just for you. Her father's a driver named Nick. He helped me to survive. Yes, you can, because I can't lose you.
I'm not gonna let anything happen to you.
What about you?
Your girlfriend is a badass.